Welcome back to Graceful Embroidery. Today we're going to stitch out another new element that can be found in the Graceful Ivy collection, or in the future Graceful Ivory collection. To do this feature, we cannot do our embroidery on stitch and tear. We're actually doing it on a cutaway. And this is soft and sheer, and there's one layer in my 100 by 100 hoop. Before I attach the fabric, I'm going to stitch out the first colour onto the mesh, because this new element has a shadow work feature. You create a block of colour and then you put your fabric over the top and it darkens or gives a colour to your fabric. You'll see as we go along. We're going to stitch out the dark green onto the mesh. You can see we've got a medallion shape there, and we're going to take the hoop off the embroidery unit. We are now going to put the fabric on top, and then we will have to secure it in place. The thinner the fabric that you stitch out this design on, the more this dark green will show through. If we put on the ivory silk here, it's hardly noticeable. So let's take the silk dupion off, and I'm putting a cotton lawn on here. You get a lot more that's visible. Now, we've got a little bit of puckering. I'm not a great fan of this type of line, so I do prefer my stitch and tear. I'm just going to take this off. And because in our last video we found starch is wonderful, I'm going to spray the cotton lawn starch and press it. Now let's see. I'm just going to pull it a little bit tighter as well. And lift that up. Let's see how that stitches out. We've placed the cotton lawn on top of the shadow work medallion. We've done a box of stitches around to hold it in place. If your machine doesn't have this facility, then use the version of this design which has outline alignment stitches. We're now stitching out a little inner section to hold everything in place. There are numerous ways to stitch out this design, and I probably haven't thought of them all, and no doubt you clever people will. We are now putting on an ecru thread. Now, those fill stitches that surround the medallion mean that you can actually put a piece of fabric on and trim it like an applique. I've done that, and I'll show you that when we're finished. Now we come to the lace part of this medallion. When I create collections, I like them to have as many elements as is possible. You may not use all the elements, but I like them to be there. I think a collection needs buttonholes, if possible. It needs frames and borders and corners and panels, because there are so many different ways that we use our embroidery designs. I never want anybody to go into one of my collections and then say, oh, if only it had so-and-so. I'm trying to put as much as possible in. And this is a lace medallion. And as you can see, we're going to stitch out the lacy part of this There are other designs in the collection which can be used alongside this. Here we have the finished design, and I hope you like it. I am quite proud of this, actually. I'm going to take it out of the hoop and we're going to examine it, and I'm going to tell you about a few of the options that you can use and other ways of stitching this out. So when I take things out of the hoop, I always remove the box of stitches. Some of them, and they will pull away. I'm grateful to Pamela Cox, who taught me how to do shadow work. With the cotton lawn, you can see the shadow work works well. I'm going to remove the excess. I don't keep the little cuts. And I'm just going in. And cutting around. Doesn't have to be too close. I see a problem there. I probably should have taken it off the hoop and trimmed the back of the shadow work so that it didn't have threads sticking out, because that will probably show through on the finished design. Because it's so thin, the lace of the medallion probably won't hide it, so I'll snip that bit off. Oh, it's not too bad. There we have our design stitched out, and we have no puckering. That looks good, doesn't it? This is a previous stitch out of the same design. Let's just move those up into the camera. This one has been stitched out, not with using the mesh. I've just used ordinary stitch and tear. I did the shadow work medallion onto the silk, and then I laid cotton lawn on top of that. Because you've got this fill here, remember we had an outline around the shadow work. You could cut away the lawn after doing that outline. I didn't have to trim too close because this fill secures the fabric. Even up here, we've got this big oval of the lace, so you can trim and leave a significant amount. I don't like thick borders. If these fill stitches weren't here, this little satin border would have to be at least twice the width to hold the fabric, but the creamy fill underneath holds it all in place. So that is another way of stitching out this medallion, which you will find throughout the collection. The shadow work will not work. It'll be hardly visible if you haven't got cotton lawn covering it. There will be panels in the collection which sit either side of the medallion, enabling you to do borders and corners. So that's today's shadow work medallion. Do subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Hit the like button and tell me in the comments what you think of the shadow work. Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now. Until next time, happy embroidering.